All right. So welcome again to the Field Empowerment Fund webinar. My name is Ibijoke Kimbawale. I'm the Director of Community Impact here at NCRC. And today we've got a couple of presenters joining us. Jesse Vental, our CEO, and Louise Ortiz, a Senior Grant Specialist here within the Community Impact team. So I want to go over a couple of housekeeping items with you today. If you can keep yourselves on mute for the call, we will have an opportunity for Q&A. We'll take a pause throughout the sections to make certain that you're able to ask those questions and come off of mute and introduce yourself. We'll also be monitoring the chat live. And so as we go throughout the presentation today, if you have any questions that you want to dump into the chat, feel free to do so. We'll do our best to respond. We'll also be certain to respond directly to application inquiries as they pop up on your screen. All righty, so today we've got a really cut and dry agenda. Jesse will join us for some remarks about the Morgan Stanley CBA that has really led to this opportunity and give you guys some critical feedback on how your organizations may be able to support our CBA processes in the near future. And so after Jesse provides his remarks, I'm going to dive right into the grant overview. And from there, Louise will start to go over our submit system, which is our new grants portal, and we'll dive right into the application. And as I mentioned, we will have an opportunity for Q&A at the end of today's presentation. And so it looks like Jesse has joined us.
I'm here, so sorry for the delay.
No worries, Jesse. I'll kick it over to you.
Sure thing. Well, thanks, Ibijoke, and thanks to the team. Nice to see so many people on the call. I'll be really brief. So this opportunity comes out of a community benefits agreement that NCRC did with Morgan Stanley. We've done a number of these agreements with various banks. And one of the things that we've learned along the way and heard from our members is many of our CBAs create new opportunities, philanthropic opportunities to work with banks in a different way. But there was a need and a desire to make sure that there was a pool of philanthropic capital that the bank did not control that could be devoted to things that were important to NCRC members. And within that, there are some confines and restrictions from the funder, but that's how we ended up in this CBA from Morgan Stanley with this pool of philanthropic capital, which we call the Field Empowerment Fund, which Ibijoke and the team administer. So that's kind of the background and backdrop. We do want to appreciate those of you who have been involved in our community benefits agreements, the organizing around those, and would encourage you to get involved and remain involved. This is the kind of thing that we can organize around and win together, and it's certainly not limited to just these grant funds, but the many other things with many other institutions that we have gotten along the way. So just want to thank those of you who have been involved, and if you're new to us, if you're new to NCRC, connect with an NCRC staffer about how you can be involved in future community benefits agreements campaigns. So once again, just thanks to those of you who were involved in this one, and I'll turn it back to Ibijoke and the team.
Thank you so much, Jesse. We really appreciate you joining us today. All righty, guys. I think it's time for us to do our deep dive into the application, of course. So I'll start by saying, as Jesse mentioned, we received a $5 million commitment from Morgan Stanley for the Field Empowerment Fund. We are in our second and final round of this application. And so a little over $2 million will be allocated, as we've allocated $2.7 million in the first round. And this is the final opportunity for this particular funding. Awards have been spliced apart and for 9 non-CDFI organizations and CDFI partners as well. And so the award opportunities do range from $50,000 to $125,000 for our non-CDFI nonprofit partners and $50,000 to $300,000 for our CDFI membership. 3 critical focus areas for us on this opportunity are going to be affordable housing, small business, and housing counseling. As many, if not all of you, are members of NCRC, then you're aware that our programming overall is very robust in this area, and we really do appreciate the technical assistance and support that our on-the-ground organizations are providing in these areas, and looking forward to highlighting this work and supporting innovative programming in scalable manners. So the selection process for this is really going to include an interdisciplinary team of professionals within NCRC. For proposals, we really are looking for scale, implementation, impact, and innovation. The goal here is for us to plug into some existing programming that we can help our affiliates either grow, increase in their community, possibly replicate in other markets as it pertains to the aforementioned focus areas. So I'm going to turn it over to Louise, who will cover our new grants portal and show you guys how to get signed up and registered if you already haven't done so, and some key features of the site, how to navigate it and download those applications, and the other technical assistance components of the site. Louise?
All right, thanks, EBJK. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luis Ortiz. I'm a grant specialist with NCRC. And like EBJK mentioned, I'm going to briefly go over the submit.com system, which we use for the grant application process. Then I'm going to go over the the actual application for the FEF grant, and you'll have some time to question and Q&A session after we go over that information. So what you're looking at now is pretty much the submit.com system. When you get your link to apply for the FEF grant, this is where the link would lead you to. At this point, you would click view applications and it'll take you to the next slide. And this is the homepage for the Field Empowerment Fund application. You'll see that there's a deadline of July 29th, 2002. By the end of the day is the deadline to submit your application. When you first log into the system, you'll click the apply link and it's going to ask you to enter some information the first time that you click this link. So it's going to ask you for your name, your email address, and then it's going to take you to the following screen, which is the actual application. So a couple of things that I wanted to discuss on this particular screen. If you notice on the right-hand side, you're going to see all the questions. You're going to be able to scroll down to see all the questions that you need to answer for this particular application. And in the middle of the screen is the question that you're on. So for example, you're on question 1, they're asking you for your organization's full legal name. Once you enter that and click next, it'll go to the next question. I also wanted to, if you go to the next slide, EBJK, there you see that arrow pointing to the little menu icon there. That menu icon allows you to do a couple of things. If you just, if that toggle list option allows you to do away with the right-hand side questions on the screen. If you just want to go ahead and answer the questions one by one in the middle of the screen without seeing the list of questions on the right-hand side, you'll be able to toggle that on and off. Another feature of the system is this system does allow you to begin the application, save your progress, and come back at a later time to complete the application. So you don't have to sit down for an hour or two completing the application at one time. You could actually save it and come back to it. Another thing that I wanted to discuss, if you click the preview button, it'll take you to actually the following slide. Okay. And this is you'll see this screen, and if you scroll all the way down when you're filling out the application, it would allow you to, it'll give you an option to download the application in PDF format. We've heard from a lot of our members saying that they like to print it out and review the application before taking a deep dive and filling out all the questions. So once you hit that preview button, it's going to take you to this screen. And once you scroll all the way down, you will see the option to download it as a PDF. So still on this screen, as you can see that this system will tell us who's applying, when the application was started and when the application was completed. It's recommended that you start this as soon as possible, just in case you have any questions regarding any particular item on this application. That'll give you enough time to get in contact with myself or EBJOK so that we can help you navigate through that information. Next, okay. Okay, so this is the executive summary. Very straightforward information. It's going to ask you for the organization's legal name, your acronyms, mailing address, phone number, your website if you're a 503c nonprofit. So very straightforward information. Continuing on to the next slide, it completes the remaining executive summary. EBJOK, can you forward to the next slide, please? Okay, so it asks you if you're a member of NCRC. It asks for primary contact information, name and email, and also ED's name, email, and phone number. So just make sure, we want to make sure that we reach out to the appropriate person in the event that we need some additional information or have any additional questions on your application. I know a lot of the times the EDs aren't always the ones that are providing the information or submitting the application. So just make sure you provide us the name and email address for the contact person on this application. Next slide. The last question here, purpose of this funding, including brief description of the population and geographic areas that you'll be serving. Next slide. Okay, so this is section 2. This is the narrative section of the application. A lot of these questions are very straightforward. Some you may have some questions about. So what we're going to do is just going to briefly go over all the questions, and at the end of this section, we'll just pause for a second, see if we have any questions on any of the items in this particular section, and then we'll move forward to the next section. Question 15, first question of this section is just, it asks if you're a CDFI or not. And this is just a multiple choice. Most of these are multiple choice or narrative formats. Question 16 asks what your project type. So there's, as EBJOK discussed, there's 3 project types. Either you're going to be working on housing affordability, small business, or housing counseling. Next slide. All right, briefly describe your organization's history, mission, and goals. So, sorry, give me 1 second, I just lost my screen. All right, there we go. All right, so briefly describe your organization's history, mission, and goals. The following question is briefly describe the role of your organization's board of directors, including how your board carries out its responsibilities for financial and programmatic oversight and fundraising. Next question, briefly describe how the population you serve is involved in the work of your organization. Briefly describe your most significant collaborations and partnerships with other entities in your field or geographic area. Okay, and then what metrics will determine the success of this project? So that's a very important question. We have funders that we need to report back to. So it's very important to have clear metrics on how successful the funds that you receive were used on this project. So the description of the metrics that you'll be using to see how successful this project was. Next question, what problem or needs does this project address? And then the following question asks about, what is your proposed solution to that problem or need? Okay, so make sure you split those up. A lot of times you want to give the solution to the problem in the same question, but it's actually broken down into two different questions. What is the plan for implementation of this project? Let's see. Is this project new? It's just a yes or no question. If it's something that you've already been working on and the funds are going to be used to kind of help out with that project, you would answer no. If this is a new project that this fund is going to help to start up, obviously let us know. Are there additional partners who you are working with for this project? Okay, and that's, I believe that's the last question to this particular section, the narrative section. So just wanted to pause for a second. Wanted to ask if there are any questions on this particular narrative section of the application that EBJK or myself could help clarify.
All right, so we do have a couple here, Louise. One question is from Simone, that your organization is a 501c3 with many local offices. Are we eligible to submit applications for different local geographies? Yes. And so I would say this application process, we're looking to hit our objectives in terms of our focus on racial equity in the 3 focus areas. Again, as I mentioned earlier, for our selection criteria, impact is an area that we care significantly about. I would view something like additional geographies, working with multiple partners as an area of impact that would demonstrate significant impact on an application. I'm going to hold off on the second portion of our questions as they do pertain to sections that we're going to overview in a moment. And the question does clarify, should if you're working in multiple geographies, do you need to submit multiple applications? No, there's not a need. If you are an organization and you have branches, it's fine to submit a single app. Just identify what those branch locations may be. If you have affiliates, identify who those affiliates are and how they connect to the work that you will be performing. It's not really the intention that you're granted and you sub-grant your grant to other entities to perform the larger body of the work. However, collaborative proposals within branches and with other affiliates or external partners is something that's more than welcomed within this application. All right, I see another question from Sue Ortiz that says we have received the CDFI TA award and are working to complete the certification application. We are operating our small dollar loan program as a licensed lender. I believe we are considered a small and emerging CDFI or SCCA. May we apply as a CDFI or do we need to be fully certified before checking that box? I would say a part of your application in section 6, we do want to see an attachment of your CDFI certification. And so I think that's pretty much the criteria for that. I know that CDFI applicants, they do have a larger threshold for this award opportunity than our standard nonprofit partners. And so we will want to see some certification I'm happy to offline possibly look at the materials that you're referring to, Sue, but at the moment, we are requiring fully certified CDFIs for those applications. Is there a word or character count for this section? There is when you toggle into the narrative questions that are open-ended responses. The word limitation is going to be 2,000 characters for any open-ended response. If it's not numerical, a yes or multi-select question, it's going to be a 2,000 word character limit. All right. Can more than one person access the application at a time? Yes, you can. Have multiple people working on the same application at the time for your organization. Everyone should, however, have their own submit.com account. And you can identify team members for your organization. And if you need some assistance with that, feel free to send us a support request to impact@ncrc.org. And yes, for clarification, again, it's 2,000 words, not characters. I understand the letters and the periods add up, but it's a 2,000 word limitation. It's not, someone said, did they hear me correctly about the pass-through? We recognize the need for contracts as it pertains to opportunities, but we're not, it's not the intention that we are making grants that the larger body of the work will be sub-granted out. We do want to see a lot of the impact happening within the organization. And that you can have partners and affiliates, but it's not that we don't want to see a combination of we're making a grant, then you've got an indirect off this grant that goes out to other folks. Unless if you have any more direct clarification that you need on that, Linda, I'm happy to noodle through some of that with you, but it would certainly want to see a healthy mix of the agency that we're granting funds, conducting work. All right, so I think these might be the questions for the narrative section. So I'm going to go back on mute and let Louise take us to section 3.
All right, so section 3 is the financial section. Please, just a quick description. It asks you to please include the following information regardless of the size of the request. You may submit this information in any format most convenient to you. Footnotes may be used to explain budget items. So first question of section 3 is actually question, I believe it's question 27, total current organizational budget. And it's, I believe it's for all your programs, not just one particular part of the project that you're dealing with. Maybe it's just the total organizational budget. Next question asks for the total dollar amount of this funding request. And then also the next question asks for the total project budget, and your budget must meet or exceed the funding request. The next question, it asks for revenues categories. So say, where are you getting your income from? What leverage resources do you have? What income does your organization have? So you would list all your revenue sources in this particular section of the application. Below it also asks for all your expense categories. So this is going to be your budget. So the first question is dealing with all your revenues, and then we want you to list all your expenses as well. Okay, next question. Please provide a brief overview.
So Louise, let me double back really quickly, because I know that was section 3 and we quickly moved to 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is question 4. Okay.
So let's double back. You guys have a couple of questions on the financial section. All right, so let's see here. One question, it says what is the project period for this funding and the reporting schedule? So this grant is going to be for an 18-month period at the time of award. And so there is some expectation of quarterly reporting as associated with that timeline. There's a question here that says, is there any information on how the funding can be used? And so I would refer to the budget expense breakout. And so it's very flexible. I see building materials that would certainly be something that's eligible. We do understand that some folks may consider this from construction and non-construction opportunities are eligible. Lending would be eligible. What is not eligible or the intention of the funds is not for this to sit in your accounts. We want to see that you are using this to leverage your programs. And so whether that's for your staffers in terms of salary, supplies and building, I mean, we're really flexible as it pertains to the costs that are associated with your proposal. Again, it's not going to be the interest that the funds are sitting in your accounts. We're going to want to see that expenditures are being made in connection with the expenses that you've plugged into the financial section in your application as it ties to the proposal in the narrative section. I hope that clarifies for you, Shelley. Okie dokie, revenue expense category for the organization at large or not the project. Really good question. So there's a couple of things. Let's see. Let's double back here. All right. I think this is the first page. Okay. So we'll want to see the overall budget perspective for your organization. And so when you go to the revenue categories, we do want to see the types of funding that you're bringing in. Again, the intention behind this is more so a demonstration that you're leveraging our funds and have existing funds that will support the completion of your overall project. And that's not to say that we can't be the sole funder of a particular project for your organization, but we obviously don't want to be the sole funder of your organization. And so we want to see what the overall revenue perspective looks like for your company. And then we're asking, specifically about your expenses as it's going to pertain to your proposed project. You can include overhead, admin, direct costs. You can include capital costs into the budget loan fund. I think I mentioned I'm absolutely hoping to see some proposals that will include that. And there's also a question here that says the organizations that have more match, and will organizations that have more match or leverage score higher? That is a wonderful question. I, again, would refer back to the impact. And I think we have a couple of sections that will cover the impact a little more directly coming up in a couple of sections down the line. But I think impact for us, just some insight into that, it is going to tie a bit to the community, the number of individuals that are being served, whether that's households, markets. I do recognize that our applicants do range in terms of the capacity. For even though $300,000 is the higher end for our CDFI applicants, I will say in those instances, absolutely going to want to see some innovative and largely scalable opportunities in order to qualify for that level of funding. Okay, do we have to pick one of the three categories or can we combine or speak to all three? You do have to pick a single category. Thank you for that question, Phyllis. And so The three categories, again, are affordable housing, small business, and housing counseling. We're going to want to see agencies focusing a project in a particular category. Again, this project, I will say, we've got a lot of components that we care about. This conceptually is for organizations that are creating a just economy through race and advancing racial equity in these areas, be them CDFIs or not. And so because of the complex nature of what we're looking for from your organizations, from the impact that you're proposing, we do want to see those proposals coming in under a single category. Okay, I think that takes us to section 4.
Section 4. Capacity building, okay. First question in section 4, it asks to please provide a brief overview of the strengths and major challenges facing your organization. The next question asks to please describe the specific capacity issue or need to be addressed with this request. Please list the CMS and reporting systems currently used by your organization. I think EBJK, would they also talk a little bit about their accounting system on how they're going to use to make sure that these funds are separate from any other income, other sources that they're receiving?
Yes, this is a wonderful point. Quickly on this section, I will say that we recognize that organizations are using multiple client management systems, whether that's a housing counseling system or an HMIS or HCS, I mean, you name it. And so on a reporting perspective, we do not want to cause an increased burden to report on outcomes and data that you simply don't collect. And so in an effort to make certain that we're streamlining our reporting process and giving you outcomes that are in alignment with what the data that you're already collecting, we want to get some additional information from you. And so that's going to be reporting systems across the board. If you're using certain systems for Fed partners and private organizations, we want to know what the system is and the reporting that you collect. And so a good example of this would be, for some of you, it may not be helpful for us to ask you if you are serving veterans. That might be way outside of the scope of the data that your organization has readily available. And so we might want to tailor your reporting a little more focused around, again, the composition of your staff, your board. Is this minority leadership? Is there female-led organizations? Are you serving, BIPOC households and communities of color? What the age ranges are? This is going to help inform some of that information as well. But yes, you're correct. You are correct, Louise, having information on the financial nature of the organizations and the reporting systems is going to be helpful as well.
All right. Next question. Are there any unique demographics that your organization collects? Some examples listed here are veterans, multi-race, and LGBT. Next question. Still, this is section 5. Systems and reporting. What is the frequency your organization collects project data? Does your project include needs for software, equipment, or other products? Next slide. Section 6 is actually the attachment section. We're going to ask for you to upload different documents in this particular section. So the first question, the first item is a copy of your current IRS tax exempt determination letter. Okay. Most recent audit or Form 990. All right, next slide. One-page organizational chart. short biographies of your staff and volunteers essential to the success of this project. Okay. Next, current dated MOU of or agreement with other organizations for collaborative or cooperative activities.
And
For
Louise, I'm sorry to cut you. I think we skipped ahead a little bit, and I think we do need to take a pause
okay,
for section 5.
okay,
Yeah. So let me just double back again. I don't think if there are any questions, about the reporting and systems and reporting section, please let me know. Again, the project period is for 18 months. We're looking at quarterly requests. That would include narrative, some demographic information that we want to collect, successes, challenges, overall impact. We might, have space for attachments for any media that you guys are doing, any requests for, changes in your budget as it pertains to the project. Very standard, not a far deviation for those that have participated in the first round from what you've already done. But any additional questions as it pertains to, so there's a question here. It says, for frequency of data collection, is it for the project or organization's project? Is it for this project or our organization's projects in general? That's a really good question. I think the way that I would view this, if hypothetically, if your focus area is housing counseling, how often are you collecting and reporting for that aspect of your programming? So minimally, of course, I know you're reporting quarterly for your 9902, but are there metrics that you're reporting to funders weekly, monthly? We want to get some feedback from you guys around how often you're collecting and pulling reports. And again, this is more of a question around capacity. We want to be considerate of not, again, causing a reporting hardship by asking you to report at greater frequencies than your organization is used to reporting, and for significant measures outside of your organization's ability to collect. Okay. All right, so I think that might cover us for section 5. Let me move you back ahead.
okay. Back to section 6, the attachments. I think we went over the one-page organizational chart. Short biographies of your staff and volunteers that will be participating in this project with you. Next slide, an MOU, MOU or agreement with other organizations that will be working alongside with you on this project. For capital campaign requests only, list of members of the capital campaign committee. Okay, next question. CDFI certification, back to, I believe EB Joke touched on this a little bit earlier. So if you're going to need to have your CDFI certification if you're going to be applying as a CDFI. If requesting funds for construction, must include detailed plans of activities. Okay. Housing council and applicants, let me see.
So this would be your for your housing counseling applications. There are going to be 2 things that we require. It's going to be your Q4 9902, and then you'll want to provide certification for your counseling staff.
I believe that's the end of the application.
It is. So I think there are a couple of questions I missed. One question is, does the focus have to be Black or Latino, or could it be also Indigenous or other unserved populations? This is a really great question. For this announcement, we have asked that the communities that are served are LMI specific and Black and Latino populations. I will say that a growing area of interest for funding for us here at NCRC is centered around Native American and Indigenous populations. And so while I don't believe that is an express area of focus for this opportunity, I would be very open to learning and exploring what kinds of projects folks were interested in funding with these other groups. Okay, so since we're at the question component, I think I'm gonna stop sharing. And if folks have questions, I know we've answered quite a bit in the chat. If you would like to use the raise your hand feature, we can bring you off of mute and you can ask any questions that you have. One earlier question that I also still needed to address is around previous applications. So I highly encourage folks to visit our Field Empowerment website. If this is something that you haven't already done, we will continue to funnel through updates to this website. So I'm going to just share that for you now. We will have this PowerPoint presentation available on the website. That'll happen early next week. You'll also have an opportunity to see information on some of the programs that we've previously funded. Really great examples here in Washington, the Latino Economic Development Corporation and their Resilience Loan Fund. Other wonderful examples out of Oakland, California, a very impressive market and social franchising opportunity. I mean, this community, they developed their own currency, and it's something that actually was very thriving from our Black Cultural Zone grantees under the first round. Our partners at Pima County Land Trust, they were able to acquire properties, and they're working on further development in the Tuscan, Arizona area. Those would be really key examples that I would mention. I will say also that this opportunity on the small business end, we're definitely looking for folks to provide technical assistance and support to small businesses. I would say those are great applicants under this opportunity. We're not necessarily looking to directly support small businesses. And so this may not be the great opportunity for restaurants or maybe hospitality direct service folks, but the larger ecosystem around these institutions and the organizations that support their work. Okay, I see a couple of questions. Okay, one question is to clarify LMI and Black or Latino, not either or. Yes, not either or. We'll want to see a healthy combination of both. I will say this, we're obviously in a pandemic, and I think a number of organizations that have provided services by and large to low income populations have seen an increase to serving more moderate income individuals. And so I recognize that there will be a healthy combination of the incomes that you're serving, but we definitely want to see applications for folks that are serving LMI groups. And we do want this to be focused around creating impact and wealth, frankly, for Black and Latino individuals. I think there is another question here. Can you talk about the sorts of projects of interest you within the small business category? Yeah, I think I mentioned that just around the technical assistance providers, lending. We're very any construct of lending models that we can support and plug into, whether that's microloans, SUSUs, if you call it. I know I don't want to share too much. I've had the opportunity to debrief with many of you that participated in the first round, and to hear about what some of your proposals may entail in terms of innovative approaches to reaching small businesses and providing your support, innovative approaches to addressing housing affordability issues within your market. And so whether that is, again, through construction, non-construction, looking into manufactured housing or not, looking into unique family compositions, advocacy in that area. We just want to be able to point back to the impact that you'll be having on the community in numbers, in forecast of overall impact and projections that you see your projects having. That's going to be more of what we're interested in. I think what will speak to reviewers on this as well is not necessarily organizations that are in the design phase of programming, but more in the scale and implementation areas of their work. And so have you thought through these concepts and piloted them already and are looking to, okay, how do we do more of it? How can we increase what we've done and build upon it, whether that's capacity building within your own team, or just growing your project? Okay. Are there any additional questions? I don't see any more in the chat or hands raised. Okay. Okay, there's another question here about pass-through grants. Again, we're wanting to see, I welcome applications. I welcome joint applications for sure, and working with other organizations as partners, affiliates. I welcome a joint application perspective. But again, from a contractual relationship, we're going to want to see the primary organization is engaging and work around the project specifically. But if folks have additional clarification, or maybe there's a proposal that you want to tee up, I'm happy to find some time to chat with you. Okay, Laura, feel free to take yourself off of mute. I think
yeah. And sorry if I'm being dense, because you've answered my question twice now, but I'm still not sure I understand about the racial and ethnic focus.
Okay.
So our CDFI NCRC member is in Maine, which is 95% white. We are working to increase our lending to Black and Brown, to BIPOC borrowers in general, including Black and Latino. But does the entire focus of the proposal need to be on that, or can it be on LMI communities that include Black and Latino communities? This is what I'm not quite understanding. I mean, we're trying to do lots of things, so I just want to make sure if we include LMI rural communities that are largely white, is that not what you're looking for at all? And should we not talk about that work, but really only focus on trying to increase Black and Latino lending? But this is a small business proposal. So.
Thank you for the question, Laura. The mandate from Morgan Stanley is hefty in the sense and regard that we've got a couple of things to address. We've got to target LMI consumers. We've got to advance racial equity. We've got some categories of non-CDFI and CDFI, and so I recognize that, and I'm sure this point of clarification will help many, if not all, on the line. So overall, it's not an if or the other. We do want to see that you are directly supporting LMI consumers. There's no work around that. I want to know that your programming is intentionally addressing the barriers that Black and Latino consumers are experiencing when it comes to housing affordability, small businesses, and housing counseling. And so when we go through reporting, for us, an organization that served 90% white consumers and 10% Black or minority consumers, it's not going to be a measure of success for me as an outcome. It's not going to be a project that really hit the target on addressing the equity and the gaps that these communities are experiencing in these focus areas. So some of that might be what you're describing might be a design question in terms of how do you explicitly target the demographic that we are discussing? I'm not certain what project you are considering, but we are in a very flexible time where there's tons of innovation bubbling to the surface. One thing that I feel like I'm mentioning every other day is around special purpose credit programs and the ability to call out the groups that you are targeting specifically. And so that's the level of innovation that we want to see across the board, and the type of targeting that we want to see in a proposal to ensure that we're reaching the targeted demographic. Okay, I hope that clarifies. Thank you so much. All right, we've got 3 minutes, 3 questions, maybe, no? Okie dokie. So I will say the grant application closes on July the 29th at 11:55 p.m. It would be 11:59, but our submit application doesn't let us do that. So 11:55 p.m. Our team is available for technical assistance and can be reached directly at impact@ncrc.org. As a result of this webinar, we do have a couple of FAQs that you guys have asked that we will use to update the FAQ section. And so thank you for that. You'll have some additional information on the Field Empowerment Fund landing page next week, just as a general update for your participation in this program. We are available until 5 p.m. on July the 29th to answer any technical assistance questions that you may have as it pertains to your proposal or your utilization of the submit.com platform. I've got to say that I'm really excited and thankful for the groups that have participated in the first round of the FEF Fund, and we are so thrilled to have your interest as an applicant, and I can't wait to see your proposals. All right. Okay, folks, I'll give you back 2 minutes on a Friday. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. Louise. Louise? Are you there? If not, you're on mute.